They're dead, Dave.
What, Captain Hollister?
Everybody's dead, Dave.
What, Todd Hunter? What, Selby? Not Jen.
He's dead, Dave. Everybody is dead. Everybody is dead, Dave.
Hello, welcome back to Everybody is Dead Dave, the Red Dwarf review podcast where we're making our way through every episode of the series, and we are up to series 5, episode. I always try, I should write this down.
Yes.
5? 6? No, 6.
Oh, yes,
No,
yeah,
5.
6.
Yeah, 6.
Yeah. Right first time.
The series finale, that's it.
Yes, that's the one.
The
Yes.
series finale, and it's called Back to Reality.
Which always makes me think of the song by Soul to Soul.
Back to life.
That's the one, yeah.
Back to reality.
Every time they said it in the episode or the title, I just started humming it. So it's
I must be. Earlier on, I did think, I'll start the podcast by singing that, and then I completely forgot to do it. But I'm sure everyone doesn't want me singing at the top of every podcast. Yeah, maybe we should try and find a song that relates to the episode every week, and we'll just start
like that.
with
I like
a duet
that.
of this. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below.
Let's do that. And we've got to get our guests to do it as well, but we won't tell them. We'll just be like, right, sing it.
Get the lyrics up online and sing.
That's the one. I like that.
Yes. We haven't introduced ourselves. If you're new here, I mean, if you've been around, we're up to episode 30 something. I don't know.
Yeah,
something like
I
that.
think this is episode 30. Yeah, because it's 6 episodes per series. So yeah, episode 30.
So episode 30 now, and so hopefully you know by who we are by now. But just in case you just come into this episode fresh, I'm Phil.
And I'm Adam.
And we are making our way, as I said, through every episode. Me for the, 6th or 7th time since I started watching it in the 90s. Adam for the very first time.
Yes, and I'm having a very positive experience for the most part. Really loving this show. So, yeah, here onwards we go. Can't believe we've only got, 3 series left of what a lot of people keep telling me is, quote-unquote, the golden age. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, the original run.
That's it, yeah, sorry, the original run.
Before the wilderness years. So, this episode, I'll read the synopsis off of IMDb. The Red Dwarf investigates an ocean ship, the Esperanto, where they find the ship's crew have all committed suicide and are attacked by a sea monster called the Despair Squid. Later, they wake up to find they are not who they thought they were and have actually been playing an artificial reality game for 4 years. Oh dear.
Oh dear. And hilarity ensues, as they say. So
yeah. The game that they wake up from, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but the game that they wake up from, we'll come back to the beginning, is reminded me a little bit of like the Better Than Life game that they'd played before.
Yeah, it feels sort of like trodden ground, I guess, what we've
But in reverse.
In reverse, yes, yeah, waking up from it.
Except this is definitely, the life they've been living on Red Dwarf is definitely not necessarily... Well, I suppose it kind of is better than their lives in the world that they emerge into.
Yes,
in a way.
And what a world it is. But we'll come to that.
We will come to that. Let's start at the beginning. They're exploring an underwater base.
Yes.
So kind of a research ship, isn't it? See, they've been experimenting with genetics and speeding up evolution.
Yes, that's right. And a Starbug is underwater, so it is all-terrain, pretty much.
Yeah, and of course... no. I'm jumping ahead again. They're investigating. Rimmer is on the ship, and Rimmer's on Starbug, stayed on Starbug, but the other 3 have gone off to investigate this base.
Yes.
They find quite a few dead people and a dead fish.
And a dead fish. I was going to say that the first few minutes of this were quite it went for a very sort of grim atmospheric start, which I really liked. Like, it was really like dark, like we've talked about how well they could do the sort of like dark and dingy lighting effects before. And like that whole, when they approach the base, and Rimmer's still in Starbug, there's not many points where you hear the audience laugh. It's very much played straight, the whole, which I quite liked it though. I quite liked they were going for a sort of more, for want of a better word, like, more of a straight drama opening, I suppose, like exploring somewhere they weren't sure of and they didn't know what was out there. It was a nice change of pace, I guess.
Yeah. And like I said, they find these bodies First a few humans and then a fish. And they come to the conclusion that they have all, including the fish, committed suicide.
Yes. And they soon discover there's actually a bit of funny banter about, particularly with the fish, like why would the fish commit suicide? I'm surprised we didn't get a catfish joke, considering how much he loves fish. I'm going to get you, little fishy. Fishy, great tune. But yeah, I don't know why. I just thought, like, that was literally the first thought in my head when it was a fish. I was like, oh, cat's going to suggest, like, eating it or something. But no, we didn't. Maybe that trait's left in the past. Who knows?
We've mentioned before on the podcast their tendency to use black humour, and particularly around this subject of suicide. They've used it several times, which I know in the past has made you feel uncomfortable in some bits. How do you think it went here? Do you think it was used well, or...?
I think this time, and I'm not trying to sound like rude or uncaring towards fish, but I think the fact they mainly played on the fish, the fish aspect of it, like it was the fish's suicide, sort of lessened the uncomfortableness. If they sort of dwelled on, say one of the human bodies and sort of made 3 or 4 minutes jokes about, it could have been this or it could have been that.
Yeah,
I think that would have perhaps rubbed me the wrong way. But
think back now, but was there any jokes? I can't remember any jokes about humans' suicides.
The one that always springs to mind was right in the first or second episode when, Rimmer comes out.
No, I mean in this episode.
Oh, sorry, in this episode.
In this episode, were there any jokes? I think the humans were, like, you were saying about how the episode had this quite serious tone to start with, and this quite dark tone. I think that was carried on when they were finding the bodies as well. So they wasn't really it wasn't like they were rattling off jokes about these suicides until they got to the fish.
Yeah, which I think is why I didn't really feel too uncomfortable this time around, because obviously suicide's not nice in general, but I think in the context of a drama, like, in a drama, obviously I wasn't necessarily expecting it in Red Dwarf, but when you go in for like that grim atmospheric feeling, bad things are probably going to happen. So you sort of, I guess, subconsciously expect it. But then you're right, yeah. If they'd have started, basically, if they'd have made the jokes about the humans, that might have made me feel a bit uneasy. But the fact they directed it towards the fish sort of softened it a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it wasn't as jarring as it has been in the past. That's probably a good way to summarize it, I suppose.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. So they find some hallucinogenic squid ink, which Crichton gives a bit of exposition about. That it induces despair, and that's why everybody on the ship seems to have committed suicide. And Lister has touched it, so they're going to rush now back to Starbug to try and get some kind of antidepressant, I guess, some kind of mood. What do they refer to it as? Mood booster or something like that?
Yeah, and they say, what is it? It's lithium something, they say?
Something like that.
Yeah, and they already have a few moments of despair, I suppose, when they're in the airlock of Starbug, where they just start breaking down crying. And
nobody's really loved Lister.
Yeah, that's just sad, man. It's just like, oh, Matt, you just want to give him a big old hug. And I found the cat's one the funniest there, I think. He's like, why have I always got to be the strong one? And then that's what breaks him apart, really well handled there. And I love when they get back on the ship and they realise that the squid is very much still there, and is heading towards them.
And it either wants to, it either wants to eat them. What was it? Kill them, eat them, or make love to us or something.
Yeah, that was a potential funniest for me, just because I wasn't expecting it, and it was great delivery from Craig Charles. But I actually love that. I think it's Holly refers to it as the Suicide Squid, which just made me instantly think.
Which is great timing because the
current movie,
Suicide Squad came out the week we're recording this, so.
Yeah, that made me giggle a little bit just because of obviously how literally change one letter and you've got the movie. But that made me laugh a little bit. But I was a bit, I kind of thought we weren't going to see it because, ominous atmosphere and BBC budgets. But it would have been maybe cool to see a bit of what the squid looked like. I think we get that shadow. But we don't.
I think that was the ink, wasn't it? Wasn't that?
Was it the ink? Oh, right, okay.
I took it to be the ink. It may have been a shadow. I'm not sure.
To my regular viewers will know I don't have the best eyesight, so it could have been ink. I just took it as a shadow. But yeah, I thought it might have been cool to even seen a tentacle or something. But then I thought, well, BBC budgets, and we're already doing like underwater bases and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
so,
we got some nice underwater model work.
We did,
especially when, as you know, they're in Starbug. Of course, Starbug crashes.
Yeah, and blows up again.
Blows up again, because that's what always happens when you're in Starbug.
That's what always happens. Yeah, but then we get the shock revelation. The caption "Game Over" pops up.
Yeah,
and I was literally, I was like, "What?" I was like, "What is going on?" And as you say, they wake up, and Rimmer's hairdo, man, is quite something.
It's not just Rimmer's, because Lister's hairdo is also quite like, he's got the ponytail, and
he does, yeah. And Cat obviously with like the little bowl cut or whatever, and Crichton says he says he's half human. What part was implied to be half human? Because he said that, and I was like, right, but he still had most of like the Crichton makeup. It was just he had like the metal bits on his head. Do you know what I mean? I was just like, what part of you is implied to be human?
I don't know. I think he's meant to have been like augmented, so that's why he's got a weird shaped head.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I guess, yeah. Or maybe they just had to say something. It was like, okay, yeah, half human. We'll roll with it.
And then so they're wondering what's going on, and then Timothy Spall comes in.
I know. I was so pleased to see him. It's one of those where for a few seconds you go, "Is that? No, surely not." And sure enough, yes, Timothy Spall. Any Harry Potter fans, Peter Pettigrew, and various other things he's been in over the years, but. Yeah, with a Brummie accent as well. Yeah. A very good Brummie accent. So.
Right, lads, how you feeling? Bit wonky? It's perfectly normal. We'll be right as rain in 20 minutes.
He was apparently, according to the IMDb trivia section, extremely nervous shooting this because he'd never performed in front of a television studio audience before. They had to do several takes of his lines because he was so nervous, apparently.
Wow. I mean, I guess it is a different... being an actor, I've not done it myself, but I can imagine it's a different beast because when you're doing regular theatre, you're more focused on delivering the lines, and if they laugh, that's great. But if not, I guess you're not really bothered about it. But yeah, when you're trying to do like scripted TV in front of a live audience where you have to make them laugh because that's the whole point of the show, I can imagine that must be quite nerve-wracking.
Yeah, and it turns out that. They played this game. They played the Red Dwarf game very badly.
Yes, they didn't.
Lister was meant to get clues with Kachansky.
Yes,
they didn't find the planet of the nymphomaniacs,
no.
Which I'm sure that Rimmer particularly would have loved.
Of course, and they missed, what was it? The letter in his swimming certificate.
Yeah, the micro dot in the eye of his swimming certificate, which was the clue to find out the truth of Rimmer, which is apparently that he's a secret agent with altered memories to only appear like he's a complete git.
Yeah, and supposedly it helps Lister jumpstart the second Big Bang and create the second universe or something.
I do like that. So yeah, he was meant to wipe out the crew, which we know he did.
Yes.
But then he was meant to lead Lister on to become and guide Lister to become the sort of reboot the universe with a second Big Bang. And that's the ultimate irony that the ultimate atheist Lister is in fact God.
Yes, of course. But of course it would be Lister who'd do something like that. One bit I liked in this scene was they revealed that they've been playing the game for 4 years, which at the time was a nice reference to the life of the show, because this went out in 1992 and the show started in 1988, so that would make 4 years. And for someone, I'm obsessed with like numbers and dates, all that sort of stuff. So things like that, I appreciate those little, because they could have put any number of years, couldn't they? They could have put like, oh, you've been playing for like 10, 20, 50 years or whatever. But I just like the fact, they reference like when the show started. It was nice.
Yeah, I like that too. We get to find out a bit more about each of the characters and who their in inverted commas real
who they are.
Personalities are. Cat is a guy with no style at all.
Dwayne Dibley.
Dwayne Dibley. I've been waiting for Dwayne Dibley. I forgot because I couldn't remember which episode Dwayne Dibley showed up in.
You just knew the name and the.
Because I had it in my head that it was the polymorph episode, and that he after getting changed by the polymorph, he turned into Dwayne Dibley, but clearly I was misremembering It had been a while since I'd seen this series or the early series. So it's Dwayne Dibley, no style, got his little thermos flask.
Yeah, a
full
little
of-
thermo flask. Basically, would you say he was meant to I don't know, like stereotype a 90s sort of nerd? Because they reference, you've got an anorak in there, and I know anorak was a term often ascribed to the adult nerds of various pop culture. They call them anoraks and stuff like that. I don't know if that was what they were going for, maybe?
Yeah, I think that kind of general, slightly nerdy, train spotter type stereotype.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Which I'm sure many 90s nerds loved at the time, in inverted commas. They loved being jabbed at. And Crichton is a detective, supposedly. Jack Bullet.
Oh, yes, Jack Bullet, yes. Half cyber, as part of the cybernautic detective, he's cybernautics department, which we find out later is traffic.
Traffic control. But do you know what? Before that got revealed, I wrote in my notes, somehow it makes complete sense that Crichton's a detective. I bought into that at 100%, and I love the whole, he does the traditional American voice, don't mess with the law, let the law handle this, and all that lovely. And obviously is when we see him in their outfits, it's the traditional Dick Tracy, long trench coat, fedora, sunglasses wearing. So I just loved it. It really fit the character of Crichton.
I really like the moments where he's trying to convince himself that because he's a detective, he would be he's going to be a take no nonsense kind of guy, and he goes through this whole spiel, and then that's when I think Rimmer points out that he, for all he knows, he might be traffic. And then immediately he reverts back to typical Crichton and goes, "Oh yes, absolutely, so you might be right."
Yeah, Robert Llewellyn excelling again, and
yes, and we get Rimmer, who is kind of a tramp, basically down on his luck. He's got a smelly coat. He's got this crazy. Yeah, he's basically
poor Billy Doyle.
Yeah, poor Billy Doyle. Then we have Lister, who is rich. Suave, got a limo parked in the garage, has a nice expensive watch, and turns out is Rimmer's brother.
Yes, Sebastian Doyle. And do you know what? Again, I wrote that makes complete sense. Of course they are. I mean, we've talked about in this show their sort of bizarre relationship where they don't get on, but they sort of respect.
Yeah, they have this kind of
and
sibling rivalry, don't they?
Yeah, which I think is why it obviously it's funny, but it does also make complete sense that they are related in this supposed real life. It just makes sense. And even funnier that Lister's the supposed successful one and Rimmer just doesn't have an excuse. Well, like I say, he doesn't have an excuse that he can't blame his upbringing or his parents. He's just floundered it, apparently, at some point in his life. So
yeah. And then, and so that's who they all are, and they're kind of hustled out of the room as a new team and a new set of Listers and Rimmers come in to play the game.
Yes, that's it. And we see a little clip of their game a bit later on. Our Lister watches, doesn't he, on one of the screens?
Yes, and they're doing much, much better.
Yeah, I think they've got Kachansky, and I must say that male actor's handling of the female actor was a bit rough and ready, which I'm sure was part of I'm sure that was part of the scene and all that, but I was a bit like, whoa, okay, that's I was a bit like, wow.
I'm quite surprised that they didn't get the same actress back for Kachansky, because that's in gaming language, that's an NPC, that's not a player.
Yeah. Do you mean the Scottish one?
Yeah.
So I read somewhere, I'm not sure if I read this correctly, but I think it might be this series or maybe the next series, but there was at some point where Kachansky is featured again, whether it was this or next series, I don't know. And I think it read that they didn't choose her because they thought she was now too old.
Oh,
but then it's but all the main actors have aged as well. So I don't, one of those weird TV, ageist things.
That I will say relates to a couple of series time.
Oh, okay. It might have been that then, but I just read that somewhere that I don't know if she was asked but it sounds like they just said, oh, well, she's too old now. So, because I believe it's someone different in those later series who plays Kachansky.
Yes.
Yeah.
But for this, I don't know why they just didn't get her back for that. I mean, maybe she just didn't want to. I don't know.
Well, she
Who
might
knows?
have been touring because I learnt she was a former pop star or
Really?
rock star. She was a singer in a band called Altered Images, I think.
Okay, I've not heard of them, but
Well, I only found that out because, sorry, big tangent, guys, sorry. In the recent Blu-ray release of season 24 of Doctor Who, one of the extras was a bit of promotion for that season. And I don't know what program it was, but they were talking to Sylvester McCoy, but then she popped up. And I was like, that's Kachansky. Obviously, this was pre-Red Dwarf, but I was like,
Yeah.
that's Kachansky. And they were saying she had like a solo single out. And they mentioned that she'd been part of this band called Altered Images, which I think was more of an early 80s, like new wavy kind of band. I've heard the name Altered Images, but I wouldn't recognize any of their stuff. But you know how these bands come back around? Maybe she was doing that. Who knows?
maybe I'm gonna have to go look them up after this.
Yeah.
See if they got
But,
any music on Spotify.
Yeah, no, definitely. I need to give it a listen as well. But I'm pretty sure that it was her, because obviously it was 1 year before Red Dwarf started. And I was like, that's definitely and she had a Scottish accent and all that. So I was like, this is definitely the same person.
Yeah, yeah. But they get out of the so the guys get out of the this center where this game is,
Yeah.
and discover they're in a bit of a fascist state.
Yeah, just a little bit with those posters.
Posters on the wall, betray your family.
Yeah. What was it? Vote for fascism for a third time in a row for complete government control or something like that.
Yeah, it's cutting a little too close to home these days.
Yeah, just a little bit. Hopefully, we won't see posters like that in the end. But a bit scary.
yeah. So, but it's a very weird fascist state. Once we get the guy that sort of discovers them in the parking lot, and who is chasing somebody who has stolen an apple, and he's talking of like apple of the people.
Yes.
And then he's talking of like uphold voters. So it's this kind of weird pseudo democracy.
Is it
fascism.
Is it
It's-
sort of that like false democracy? Like
Yeah.
the government says you have free will and free choice, but they're probably the only party to
yes,
vote for,
sort
and
of,
that's
1984. What is it? 2 and 2 make whatever 5 or whatever it is.
Yeah, or certain countries in the world at the minute, but we won't name names. But yeah, no, it's that horrible kind of doom scenario where it's like fascism rules, and they try and present this illusion that you have free will as a voter, which is probably like say why they refer him to try and reinforce that, but they probably don't.
Well, it's effectively we later learn because we discover that Lister is in fact a very important person in this fascist regime.
He is. He's the voter colonel, isn't it?
Voter colonel, head of the military of alteration, and alteration is seems to be killing people that aren't going to vote for the fascist party.
Yeah, pretty much.
So it's basically
it's like-
voter suppression because they're just going to kill everyone that won't vote for them.
Yeah, it's like you have free will, but if you don't obey us, then you're dead. Pretty much.
Yes, you have free will to choose death or voting for us, is what they're saying there.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So all in all, pretty bad situation they're in.
Yeah, very
and
bad.
they've all retained obviously their personalities and their memories from Red Dwarf, the game.
Yeah.
They haven't at this point in the thing they haven't gotten any of the real world again
Yes.
heavy inverted commas memories back. So Lister is like appalled that he would be this person, and Crichton ends up killing the guy to stop the guy killing the child. But of course, as a mechanoid, he's programmed not to kill humans.
That's
so
right,
That
yes.
tears him up. Cat is obviously already not feeling great because he's it looks terrible and has no fashion sense. And,
Yeah, the prime concern. Of course.
and Rimmer's life is clearly just horrible there, and he can't. Oh, his thing is that he can't blame it on his parents anymore.
That's right, yeah.
Because Lister's parents, who he shares a parent with, and he's become really rich.
he can't
so
stand it.
They all become a bit suicidal, and they all decide that they've got one bullet, and they're just going to line up their heads.
Yes.
And kill each other all at once. And then, luckily, Holly gets through to them because, yes, they're not. This isn't the real world. The real world is Red Dwarf.
Yes.
And this is
And
the
it all clicks.
hallucinogenic effects of the squid.
You're hallucinating. You're hallucinating.
What?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Oh, did you? I mean, I knew this was happening anyway because I've seen it, so it's hard for me to remember when I first clicked this from the first time I saw it. But did you like they? I mean, with the hallucinogenic squid stuff, did you? And the minute they came out of the VR stuff, did you assume that this wasn't the real world?
Honestly, no, because
Okay.
with what this show can do and what it has done, I thought this has the potential to be. And again, I think it's this thing I've been told, maybe in the next series or at some point in the future that they're not really going to be on Red Dwarf anymore. So I think now anytime they divert like this, I'm like, oh, is this the catalyst moment? Is this what takes them away from Red Dwarf? So no, I didn't click it only until I think it's before Holly cuts in. There's a moment where either they're talking or it might be when they're is the driving's first, isn't it? Before Holly cuts in.
No, Holly cuts in first. Oh, is it?
I thought when Crichton shoots the guy.
Oh, yes.
Don't they get in the car and then there's a brief? Is it that? I'm trying to look in
Yeah,
my
you
notes
might
in the
be
order.
right.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think I've written that before.
That is
the
first.
Holly
Yes, so
comes
we
in.
knew that. Yes, that's when it's kind of revealed to the audience, isn't it?
Well, before they get in the
suicide
car, I think it's when he shoots the guy. There's a brief few seconds where we see them in Red Dwarf in their regular outfits, and then it cuts back.
bit. Oh,
And
really?
I was like, yeah, because I wrote in my notes, I wrote, wait, what? Back on Red Dwarf? I think it's just before they get in the car. It's literally a few seconds, they're having a conversation, and
Oh,
then
I
it just
missed
cuts.
that.
It just cuts back, and then it cuts to and from. And I thought, right, and then they get in the car, and then we're fully on Red Dwarf, and we're seeing them pretending to, run around and do
Yes.
the driving. Which was a great moment. I really loved that scene. They're all pretending to chug along in the car, bouncing up and down, shooting over the bridge, all that sort of stuff. Then I think Holly cuts in when they get to the outside the burger place or wherever.
Yes, you're
it is.
right. The car stuff was first. Can't believe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but,
I got that the wrong way around.
When
but
Holly
yes.
did cut in, obviously then I was, we're fully aware that they are hallucinating. But I'm surprised they didn't save that until, until like you say, until Holly cuts in. But then I thought, well, if you were going to do a car chase, that would require a lot of setup. Probably be very expensive to do, jumping over a bridge and all that. So could it have potentially been maybe a budgetary thing why they revealed it early?
I don't think so. I just think it's more funny. Because it could have done a car chase and that all been real, and it would have been maybe exciting, but it wouldn't have been. I don't think it would have been particularly funny. But it was hilarious watching them run around and think they're in a car and be having an imaginary steering wheel in front of them and leaning to side while sitting on these cardboard boxes, whatever they were sitting on. So I think that was a deliberate choice for the comedy, not because of budget restraints.
No, fair enough. And yeah, it was funny, don't get me wrong. It was a great scene. Yeah, it was just... I guess I was just curious why they didn't save it until, right before they were going to pull the trigger sort of thing. But
Yeah.
no, that makes sense. But they do manage to come back to reality. But was it the higher frequency that saved them, that Holly was broadcasting?
Yes. So initially
Yeah.
she just contacts Crichton, really, doesn't she? Through the higher frequency, which I guess makes sense because he's a mechanoid. I was wondering how it affected him in the first place, given he's not organic.
I suppose so, but then I guess he does, as he's developed over the past few series, we've established that he is capable of, I guess, sort of expanding in emotions and stuff and having feelings. So yeah, I don't know, maybe it's something to do with
but
that.
I just how would the
I get what you
doesn't
mean.
matter.
It's probably it just plays on his circuits or something, and that's what makes him go haywire.
But then she gets him to release a gas that then is the same stuff from earlier that they used to alter their mood back down.
Yes.
And that then brings them all out of it, and then they can all hear her voice, and they all come out of it.
Yeah, and just like that has happened, and we get a few little. We get some more exposition from Crichton about what happened, and I love Kat's little quip about super. What was he say about Kat? He's like, the cat had terrible dress sense because he didn't have anything to live for because he's incredibly shallow. And then Kat just responds as well, superficial is my middle name, and I was like, that's just summed this character to an absolute T. That was a great line.
Yes.
And then we cut back to Starbug, and Lister's coming out with another message. It seems to be sort of a message. You know, I guess he's more summarizing on the day's events, so to speak. You know, about evolution and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, don't play God.
Yeah, pretty much. But it always seems to be in the last few series. It always seems to be Lister, doesn't it, who comes out with the message, if you like, or the ethos of the episode. It's never really one of the others, or unless I've just forgotten.
Yeah, mostly. Sometimes Crichton gets in something.
Yeah.
But yeah, mostly him. The other two, I suppose, aren't particularly moral messagey type of people. Yeah,
and for all like the quick endings Red Dwarf's had, or the endings on a quip, this one did just sort of end, really, didn't it? It's just Rimmer saying no one likes a smart Alec Mechanoid, and hit the retros, and off they go. That's it.
That's it. Off into the next series.
Yeah.
There was thought, actually, when this was made, that it might be the last episode ever, potentially.
Well, I guess it does have like a bit of finality to it. You know, there's no cliffhanger. It's just sort of right, we've done that, on we go.
It's partly because the cast were sort of starting to get other work and things. Chris Barry was, I think, firmly into his role as Gordon Brittas and the British Empire by this point. Crichton, this is also the point where they had I think they'd just filmed the American pilot, which had Robert Llewellyn in it as Crichton. So if that had been picked up, he might not have been able to do the British version anymore. So I think they were thinking that maybe this just wouldn't continue after this if the American version got picked up.
And with Craig Charles was 92. Was that too early for Robot Wars?
Oh, that was too. I think that was too early for Robot Wars.
Oh, okay. I'm sure he was doing other things as well, probably.
When did Robot Wars start? I'm going to Google that. Let me just double check on that.
It was in the 90s, I think. I just remember because they used to when I was growing up in the early 2000s, they used to rerun many of the old episodes, some of which had when Jeremy Clarkson used to host it, of course, way back when. But then I think Craig Charles always did the fight commentary, didn't he?
Craig Charles. So it started in 1998, and that was the one with Jeremy Clarkson.
Oh,
and then Craig Charles took over in 1998 for the second series and was the host until it was cancelled in 2004.
Right.
And it was briefly revived from 2016 to 2018.
Yes, with Dara O'Brien as the host? Yes, I remember seeing that. But yeah, no, I must have seen new episodes then because I watched it in the early 2000s. So maybe it wasn't reruns after all. It might have been.
Yeah, it might have been brand new episodes, yeah.
But no, I mean, that could make sense it was the last one. And I know just going forward for Series 6, again, when I've looked at some of the synopsis for the episodes we've reviewed, I caught the, on Wikipedia, it's like it has like a little summary of the season. And I just caught the one for Series 6, and it apparently, it says many of the episodes were written or like they were rushed because the BBC wanted new episodes, ASAP.
Okay.
Or that's what it says on it's Wikipedia. It could be, you have to check your sources. But apparently it was just a bit rushed. I'm not saying that means the episodes will be bad, but apparently the BBC were like, we want more. So they had to oblige, I suppose.
Wow.
Yeah. But we'll get there.
We will indeed, yes.
Yes.
So that's this episode. Who was your favourite character in this episode?
Oh, it's got to be Andy, the Timothy Spall character.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I love the fact he was in it full stop. I never thought I'd see Timothy Spall pop up, but yeah, I loved like everything from like his Brummy accent. He calls people twonks, and I call people twonks, and I've got to admit I've never really heard anyone else call people twonks, so that clicked with me. I just thought, considering it was a part he's only on screen for a few minutes, he gave it everything he's got, and he really made me laugh. So yeah, it's got to be Andy.
I'm going to go with Crichton, or it is Crichton, isn't it? Really, I was going to say his other character. What was his name?
Jack Bullet. Yeah,
Jack Bullet. Yeah. But when he's trying to do the when he thinks he's a hardened detective, and he's doing the
Jake Bullet, cybernetic detective. I like that. That sounds like the kind of hard-living flatfoot who gets the job done by cutting corners and bucking authority. And if those pen pushers up at City Hall don't like it, well, they can park their overpaid fat asses on this mid-digit. and swivel till they squeal like pigs on a honeymoon.
Those bits are great. I love that. I think he's got the most interesting sort of stuff to do in that from the main cast. Although Andy, like you say, I completely forgot about him, but he would be a contender. He was really good too.
Yeah, he was ace.
Yeah. What about your funniest moment?
My funniest moment, well, a contender was the Killer Cetor saw Humpus line. I know that makes me sound really juvenile, but I think it's because I just wasn't expecting it, and I just really had a giggle. But I've got to give it to the play acting and the hallucinating with the driving.
Yes.
Just because, these are 4 grown men. The script is like, you've just got to run around and be completely immersed. Like, you can't corpse, you can't giggle. You've got to treat this dead. And they do. And and this is probably just drilled into me from drama school, but when you do things like that, you're all in a car. They always say when you do like the bouncing and stuff to try and get it, because you're all in the same car, you want to try and get it sort of as in sync with like movements and stuff. And for the most part, they all did, and it was just really great to see. It just shows that they're all, they're 4 great actors who are dedicated to what they do. So, and it was just also really funny. Like, all the moments they had were really funny. So I've got to give it to that.
Uh-oh, speed bumps. Chicane!
That's 2 episodes in a row where we've managed to bring it back to old drama lessons in some way or another.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
Because absolutely, I've gone for the same moment. Just that them running around, them doing it in the car, and the moment where Rimmer winds down the window as well. He's doing the cranking of the window, and he's like putting it all into it as well.
Yeah, classic GCSE drama, isn't it? Wind down the window, all that jazz.
See, kids these days, they won't get that. They'll just be like, "What are you talking about? You just press a button."
GCSE drama now is just like say no to drugs and all that sort of stuff.
Is it?
Well, it was even in my time, but it's just there's a big focus on you've got to do your themes now, say no to anti-drink, anti-drug, important stuff, of course, but you want to do stuff a bit more exciting than just do a PSA performance piece. But
I think my GCSE made up piece was something about a doctor's waiting room which had a demon in it, an invisible man, and something else. I can't remember it all now.
See, that's interesting though. That's good stuff, not just doing straightforward. Oh, we're gonna do the state message, but yeah, how times change.
Yeah. What about marks out of 10? How many scutters out of 10 would you give this episode?
Marks out of 10, I'm giving this a 9.
Oh, a 9.
Yeah,
nice.
I really enjoyed this episode. It's probably the closest, for me at least so far, that Red Dwarf has come to feeling like a straightforward drama, which I really appreciate. Obviously, I know it's a sci-fi comedy at its core, but I do like it when it does do the more drama things and takes it seriously in that regard, because I think they do it really well. The actors and the way it's, like we said at the beginning, it's very atmospheric and all that sort of stuff. I love the whole back to reality concept. Even though they're hallucinating, I love that world. All their alternative characters are hilarious. The scenes we talked about, the drive-in scene. And yeah, as you said, if this was the last episode ever, I think I'd be happy with that, to be honest. If this was the end, I was it's a good episode to bow out on. It's fun, it's full of different things going on, and it's just a great time. It's one of those episodes I'm not going to forget. I think some along the way I'll probably forget details and stuff, but I don't think I'll forget this one. So,
no,
9
definitely.
out of 10.
I am also going to give it a 9.
Ah, nice.
Strong episode. I think I'm still leaving space because I think there are better episodes. So I want to leave,
that's
myself
big
some
talk,
room.
Phil.
Although
that's
I think
big
I've given a 9.5 in the past. I think on
I
one
think we
episode.
both have at some point.
Yeah,
I just can't remember
so,
which.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to go back and once we finished all this and see what we gave every episode and see if we stick by those rankings.
Yeah, if we can
later
remember.
On.
So,
yeah, that's true.
I'll be like, I can't remember why I gave that a 6 out of 10. But
yeah.
No, absolutely.
Cool. Well, that's another episode down. We'll be continuing our trek on through the series. We're on to Series 6.
That's right. And we'll be opening Series 6 with a guest.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Yeah.
We've learned we should never overpromise these things because sometimes they don't always work out.
I'll rephrase. We hope to have a guest for Series 6, Episode 1. But yeah, there is a place, isn't there, Phil, where they can keep up to date with that information, should they want to.
You can indeed. Do follow us on our podcast Twitter account, which is at AllDeadDavePod.
That's right. That's the one.
Follow us there. We can, keep up to date with what's going on, who our guests, reviewers are going to be.
Did you like that
just
segue?
random
I thought that was a pretty good segue.
Very good segue. Well done.
Getting better at it. So, but yeah, sorry, you go.
So check us out there, and obviously check both myself and Adam out. Other places we live on the internet. Where do you live, Adam? On the internet?
Where do I live? I partly live on YouTube, just at Adam Martyn with a Y. I make content on Doctor Who and other things I like. Now that's what I call music, TV history, idents. There's lots of different stuff. Check it out. And I'm on Twitter as well, Adam Martyn ATV. Just give us a follow for daily ramblings and such like. But yeah, those are my two homes on the internet. What about you, Phil?
Well, there's the YouTube channel, which I do put this podcast up on, as well as it going out on all the podcast channels. So you can have a listen to this while you gaze at a little cartoon picture of me and Adam, if you wish. It doesn't. We don't move. It's just a little still cartoon by Sophie of us. So you can look at that while you listen to us if you wish. Also, I do content on Doctor Who, Star Trek, the MCU, basically any geek pop culture that I enjoy and consume. I'll probably make some content about it at some point. So if you like any of that stuff, do go check it out. Give me a like and a subscribe and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Right. We better get going and ready for the next episode. We will see you all soon.
All right. See you later.
Bye-bye.